Thanks for tuning in for this Carrier Edition, sponsored by PowerFleet. We have Donny Gilbert back with us once again. Donny, what do you have for us today?
All right, we'll start out with national volumes and tender rejection rates.
Okay.
So we've indexed this, at around 10,000, and that's where we started the index in March of 2018. And of course, we always want to see the tender volumes above 10,000. Well, today we're showing 10,470. We dropped down after the Thanksgiving holiday. The holiday week's a little bit slow sometimes, and of course now we've picked back up to 10,470. Looking at tender rejection rates, they're at 8.02%. Those are also above 7%, which tells us that outbound spot market rates on a national average are picking up above contracted rates,
Gotcha.
which is something we haven't seen in quite some time. We haven't seen 8% on outbound tender rejection rates probably since 2018 as well. So this is good news for carriers right now. We're seeing volumes pick up, and we're seeing spot market rates pick up. Going forward and looking at next, I want to show you the head haul index on a national map. And the reason I want to look at the head haul index is, this is a measurement of outbound volumes minus our inbound volumes. If the outbound volumes, of course, are a lot greater, that shows it's kind of a head haul market, and we show that here in blue on this map. And if the inbound volumes are greater than outbound volumes, then we will show that in red. Of course, when your market's in red, that means you're going to have a lot more trucks than loads. So right now, if you're in a carrier, you want to kind of look at these markets here in blue, and that's where you want to aim your truck to, because when you get in these markets, you're going to have a lot more options for your truck, and a lot of times a lot more options can lead to a better rate. But here we're just measuring the outbound minus inbound. So looking through here, we see Eastern PA is turning blue. We have loads here through New Orleans, Memphis, running up through Iowa and Illinois. Down here in the south, we've got Savannah, Georgia. These are areas where there's a lot more outbound freight than inbound freight. Salt Lake City up into Idaho and Washington. And of course, right now, your Southern California markets, they are your biggest markets. They're always going to be showing as a head haul market right now. But you got to be careful in the Southern California markets, because you got a lot of red around it. There's a lot of people from Phoenix and Northern California deadheading back in that market. And that's why we see such low tender rejection rates in the Southern California markets.
Got it.
Next, I want to jump over, and this is another good issue that we've come across, the Power Pricing Index. I love this index that they're putting out now. It shows us who is in control of the rate that is going to a carrier right now, the rates that are given out for freight. And here on this gauge here, 50-50, this is a coin flip. This is, to the left of the 50 is carriers are in charge, or shippers are in charge. And to the right side of 50, between 50 and 100, this means that carriers in charge. In 2018, this gauge would have been over here in the carriers. But right now, we've actually dropped over we're in the shippers. Shippers are in control of rates right now. But a few weeks ago, it had actually dropped all the way down to 15. So here in the past few weeks, it's actually been picking up, showing that carriers are gaining strength in the market for pricing right now. And we saw that here on our tender rejection rates. We saw them picking up above 8%. That means rates are going up, and carriers are starting to gain more control. I believe as we go on through the week, we're going to see this pick up a little bit more. And of course, we'll know that later in the week when Seth gives us an update on our Power Pricing Index.
Excellent.
Jumping over to tender volumes or tender rejection rates. I'm going to look at drive-in tender rejection rates, and this lets us know which markets with the higher tender rejection rates. That's going to kind of tell us what markets are pushing up on the spot market rates. And for drive-in right now, of course, we see that dark blues right here through the Midwest. These are areas where, if you can, you want to aim your truck to as well, because these are going to have the higher tender rejection rates. Now, tender rejection rates correlate with spot markets, but this is relative to the contracted rates in those markets. So versus the contracted rates, these are where the rejections are picking up. Through Iowa, down through St. Louis, all the way down to Memphis. We have a few hot spots in the southeast. We've got Columbia, South Carolina picking up some, but we got Mobile, Alabama, and some markets through Alabama that are starting to pick up with tender rejection rates. In the northeast, we got some markets in New York and PA that are picking up. And of course, some of this could be due to the weather systems that have been moving through the area. Looking at it on a reefer, let's look at our reefer here. The reefer, of course, is a lot smaller. We still have our poultry belt that's picking up. We got Christmas coming up. Everybody's going to want turkey on the table still. So this area is still very hot for reefer. It's been hot all year. But other areas, Savannah, Georgia, Columbia, South Carolina, again, these are picking up. Northern Florida has picked up with tender rejection rates for refrigerated equipment. Out on the West Coast, you have Idaho, Washington, Salt Lake City. All those markets as well have picked up for reefer. And as these cold weather systems move through, we're going to have reefer equipment being in more of a demand because you're going to have products such as your soups, your colas, your waters,
right.
even some of your construction equipment like paint.
Really?
Those items can freeze. So as these cold weather systems move through, these items are going to be shifted from a drive-in to a reefer, which again is going to push demand up for a reefer, and it's going to push tender rejection rates up.
Excellent. Well, Donny, thank you so much for all that information. Sounds like we have a little bit of momentum building on the carrier side of things for the pricing power, but as you mentioned, Seth will be sure to give us a little bit of update later on this week. Thank you so much for tuning in to this Carrier Edition, sponsored by PowerFleet and given to us by our very own Donny Gilbert.
The comprehensive logistics offerings from PowerFleet cover in-cab ELD, fleet management, trailer tracking, cargo monitoring, and tracking other assets such as chassis and intermodal containers. Power up your operations with PowerFleet.